Senator Johnson is going to be here at about 10 after the hour, but I want to thank Senator Johnson for co-leading this roundtable. And he was also involved in the one that we had a couple weeks ago. I hope the public understands that Republicans are in the minority, so we can't hold formal committee hearings because only chairmen of committees, which are Democrats, call those hearings. So these oversight roundtables are an important part of the investigation that we do through our respective offices. Senator Johnson and I have a great deal of working cooperation for a lot of our investigations. And also for you people that have taken time out of your busy schedule to be here as panelists, I want to thank you for doing that. Three of our witnesses today are what we classify in an official way as whistleblowers. They happen to be Mark Jones, Mike Taylor, and Fred Wynn. They're patriots, and as I often have said about whistleblowers, too often by our bureaucracy, whether it's these three people or other people, because I've been dealing with this for decades, bureaucracy tends to treat whistleblowers like skunks at a picnic. Today, we're going to discuss issues of very significant importance. Public safety is a connection. First, thank you, Senator Johnson. I just told him you weren't going to get here until 4:10. You're pretty fast. Okay, yeah. First, the government's failure to follow the law. And second, retaliation against whistleblowers who alerted the government to those failures. DNA Fingerprint Act of 2005 requires a federal law enforcement people and their agencies to do several things. Law enforcement agencies are required to collect DNA from individuals who are arrested, facing criminal charges, or are convicted, and from certain detained non-citizens at our border. These DNA samples are sent to the FBI database to assist and develop criminal investigations and leads for law enforcement. For many years, the Department of Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection have failed to follow the law. According to recent protected disclosures by these brave whistleblowers with us today, in fiscal year 2023, DHS and Border Patrol only collected DNA from 30 to 40% of the 3 2/10 million individuals at the southern border. Even more concerning, according to protected disclosures, there are locations at our southern border in which the required DNA collection isn't even happening. Now, my oversight of these issues goes back at least 6 years. November 2018, I wrote a letter to DHS regarding that department's failure to collect DNA as required by law. In 2020, the Trump administration made regulatory changes and required DNA collection take place as the law demands. However, according to protected disclosures, federal bureaucrats put up roadblocks at each turn. Then the Biden-Harris administration assumed power. They simply stopped pushing the full compliance and failed to follow the law. Their non-compliance continues today. In 2023, after receiving new whistleblower disclosures, I wrote a letter to the same Department of Homeland Security. My letter included very precise, internal government data that clearly showed the Biden-Harris administration's failure to follow the law. The records also included FBI records that showed examples of illegal migrants who were connected to criminal cold cases after obtaining their DNA. The crimes included homicide, burglary, assault on federal officials, and sexual assault of minors. Those records illustrate the importance, very importance, of obtaining DNA at the border. The Biden-Harris administration, Department of Homeland Security, has failed to respond to my letter. On February 26 this year, I wrote to DHS highlighting the department's failure to respond to my November 2023 letter and requested an immediate response. My letter again made public brand new whistleblower disclosures regarding Border Patrol's alarmingly low percentage of DNA samples at our border. Again, I asked questions related to the department's DNA collection practices. Now, to date, which should be no surprise, the Biden-Harris administration's Department of Homeland Security has again failed to respond. The failure to collect DNA has real-life implications. We need to know who's coming to the United States. We need to know whether they're connected to any crimes. In other words, are they dangerous to our community? This is not a free-for-all. The Office of Special Counsel even performed a review of these whistleblowers' protected disclosures. That review said, in part, quote, CBP has failed to fulfill its responsibilities under the law and in so doing has compromised public safety. The failure to collect DNA clearly inhibits law enforcement's ability to solve cold cases and to bring violent criminals to justice. End of that quote. But I want to further quote the Office of Special Counsel. This office said, quote, the agency's noncompliance with the law has allowed subjects subsequently accused of violent crimes, including homicide and sexual assault, to elude detection even when detained multiple times by Customs and Border Protection or Immigration and Custom Enforcement. This is an unacceptable dereliction of the agency's law enforcement mandate, end of quote. Well, take a look and study that. An independent third party substantiates these allegations. After making their protected disclosures, all three whistleblowers were retaliated against, retaliation that's been extensive and enduring. From February 2018 through the present, DHS officials have subjected these whistleblowers to significant changes in duties, responsibilities, and working conditions. They suffered an overall reduction in pay, and they have been removed from their supervisory positions. These illegal actions by the government have negatively impacted promotional opportunities. For example, the Office of Special Counsel identified an intentional non-promotion for Mr. Jones. Additionally, in 2022, the Biden-Harris administration, Border Patrol removed credentials, law enforcement authorities, and firearms from Mr. Taylor and Mr. Jones. This resulted in Mr. Taylor losing his law enforcement retirement benefits after 30 years of federal service. The removal of one's firearm and credentials is the ultimate act of personal and career retaliation. The way DHS has treated these three courageous men is an absolute scandal. The Office of Special Counsel said its investigation supports a conclusion that the government's actions against these three whistleblowers constituted prohibited personnel practices. More recently, Mr. Jones was subject to continued retaliation by the Biden administration. Specifically, Mr. Jones and others within his office were asked to move to a different workplace. When Mr. Jones arrived at his new workstation, he was the only employee without connectivity, power, or phone access at his workstation, which lasted for over 3 weeks. Secretary Mayorkas has failed to cure the illegal actions against these three whistleblowers. And for me to put this as plainly as I can, the government has violated federal law, retaliated against three brave whistleblowers, and continued to refuse to take corrective action. It's a complete disgrace. The supervisors need to be held accountable. This senator won't stop fighting for these whistleblowers. My investigative efforts in this matter will continue. Now I turn to my friend, Senator Johnson.
Well, thank you.